Festival for Filipino Design and Creativity. My name is Maine Manalansan, founder and creative director of Studio Millimeters, a multidisciplinary creative and production studio, design director of the Sandbox Collective, and co-host for Ouch, or Our Unending Creative Hell podcast. I know that's a mouthful, but for today, I will be your host and moderator. So this morning, we opened this year's festival with a roundtable about the state of Philippine design, where we had a look at the current state of our design industries and discussed how we might respond to the needs of the design sector and other creative communities. But how can you, the everyday designer, build yourself up as a member of our community? We'll be hearing from representatives from various design fields in today's talk, Designing Your Career. But before we begin, the Design Center and Design Week Philippines would like to thank the following: the Department of Trade and Industry, our festival co-curator, our program partners, yes, our partner events, our media partner, our design mentors, our design live partners, our creative venue partner, our food partner, and our government partner. We'd also like to give a shout out to our venue partner this morning, the Asbury Makati, as well as to everyone watching at home on Zoom and on Facebook. So if you're gonna post, don't forget to tag us with the hashtag Design Week PH 2023 and hashtag On The Edge. So for this talk, Designing Your Career, we will be hearing from a variety of industry practitioners as they share the blueprints of carving out their paths towards their careers in design and creativity with aspiring and practicing designers in the Philippines. Taking us through the highs and lows of being a designer are our wonderful guest speakers. So for our first speaker is a multidisciplinary artist and designer based in Laguna. Her expertise extends from 3D modeling to motion graphics to brand strategy, ultimately converging her focus to behavioral and social impact design. She has helped to develop brand identities, user experiences, and campaign conceptualization with companies such as Electric Potential, Dapat Studio, Tower Records, and 98B Collaboratory. Please welcome Shara Francisco. Hello.
Thank you for having me.
Our next speaker is a service and experience designer and a big advocate for collaboration, design learning, entrepreneurship, and startups. He helps companies and entrepreneurs weave design and creative culture into their ethos through consultations, educational programs, and mentorship, while helping champion the cause to raise the standards of design practices throughout the Filipino tech community with UXPH. Please welcome Aldrich Tan. Our last speaker began her own design practice in 2012 under her own name and was awarded as one of the 6 rising Asian talents at the first, forgive me if I say this wrong, Maison et Objets Asia. Her work has been described as alternately whimsical or industrial, using metal, stone, as well as ceramic materials. Her pieces, running from minuscule to large scale, pay attention to details, whether in their functional or artistic elements. Please welcome Lilianna Manahan. Thank you so much for joining us today, Shira, Aldrich, and Liliana. So I've read out each of your introductions, but I think your history as designers, parang meron pa. So do you mind sharing us your background? Like, how did you get started in the creative industry and how, like, what happened in between from your beginning to where you are now today? Anyone can start?
I can start. For me, I've always been in the creative industry ever since I was younger. And I guess I started studying design during my college years, and it kind of progressed there. I would say I wouldn't box myself in design, so it's more of like I do art as well. So yeah, I think that's like a pretty good background. And yeah, I've been involving myself with behavioral design under ThinkPlace which is their first studio here in the Philippines. Yeah, and yeah, I think like that's a good. That's my background.
Nice. Thank you so much. How I think you have some similarities also with the other speakers, and we will be talking about that later as well. So for you, Aldrich or Liliana?
I can go. Hi, everyone. So how I got started in design, it actually started back in college when I was introduced to the world of like design and technology. And at that point, I had only used like Adobe Photoshop just to make some weird little graphics. But then I started out in graphic design, layouts, and then I moved over to branding. Then I started freelancing and working with a lot of organizations. And then I somehow just naturally entered the world of UX because I realized how everything kind of just ties together under the big brand, right? And I kind of fell in love with the problem-solving aspect of that and having to figure all of these touch points out and tie it together. So it was such a fun journey for me that I kind of went all in on that, and I tied it together with some entrepreneurship. And that was abroad. So then I came to the Philippines, and there's such a great community here. So I figured, okay, this is something that I want to keep going and keep helping out in.
I love it. I think a lot of designers really start their journey with just tinkering with Photoshop, and then the next thing you know, you're here. How about you, Liliana?
Like what you said, I was always tinkering even when I was a kid. So when it came to picking college course, I didn't have anything else in mind besides something to do with making things. So I found out about industrial design and product design. I got into that, and then there it just kind of flowed from one thing to the other. So I kind of have a bit of an art background as well. So it kind of all mashed in together. Hopefully, I'm trying to narrow it down, but it's getting there.
Yeah. So you mentioned, both of you, Liliana and Shara, you have like an art background also. How did you guys transition from art to design?
Well, I guess for me, it's not really a transition, but it's rather it expanded. Because I was really used to with art, not really design. I didn't really like design at first. But then it kind of progressed when I learned about like social innovation design, social impact design. There was such thing as understanding people and designing a solution for them, designing for the better. And then, I kind of applied that to art as well. So I guess it's not really a shift, but rather, it expanded my horizons to what art and what design could be.
And in that sense, like it kind of influences each other. So for you also,
I think mine's the opposite. Like I like art. I mean, I grew up around a lot of art, and there wasn't really design in school. There was always art class. So that was my background, but I knew I didn't want to be an artist. I don't know why. But so when I found out about product design, I thought I can apply those the same principles and ideas that I already had into design. And then now it kind of flipped back to like I'm making art again, but with a design mind. So I feel like sometimes my approach is different from how other artists would approach a project or a piece. So it's like going back and forth, and it's feeding each other.
yeah, and I think with Aldrich naman, since you mentioned like product design, I'm assuming these are like tangible products. And interesting for Aldrich, because when you mentioned you're a service or experience designer, I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but people can look at you with like confused faces. What is that? So for those who are unaware, can you explain what service experience architect or service designer? Like, can you explain more a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna simplify it na lang. Like the whole service design aspect is really mapping out what happens from end to end. It's a very all-encompassing process of, like, say, a business or a product or a service, and mapping out all the customer touch points, both externally and internally, how processes and procedures kind of talk to each other, how teams talk to each other, how information is spread within a business, an organization, and how that eventually translates to the end product, which is of a business, which is their customers. So it's super, I guess, maybe meta in that sense, that you really have to like dip your toes in a little bit of everything and just tie it together. And that's where I found so much fun in it. It's such a challenge because within every organization, every business, or even country, there's just so many different problems, right? And that's part of why I love design. It's problem solving at the core.
Yes. And same with Shara, you also have experience with like behavior design, so like just people. So how does your background in behavioral design apply to your current work?
Well, for me, I'm more of like the visual designer in the studio. So for me, like how I apply behavioral design is like really understanding how to make information much more digestible to a specific target audience. And it differs, you know, because there's like a lot you have to consider: social, economic, cultural aspects. And so, yeah, that's how I apply behavioral design in my field of work, in like visual, more in the visual side. Yeah.
How do you, like you mentioned, there are a lot of aspects that you have to consider. How do you narrow it down? And I think that question goes for both of you as well. Like so many things to consider when you're coming up with a design piece. How does that process look like for you?
Mess. It's a big mess. At first.
Step one.
I'm
Mess.
99.
It's like a
Curious.
big mess, and then for some reason it all comes into like one answer in the end. Well, at least for me, like when I'm either making a product or an art piece or a functional art product, I kind of put parameters already when I'm making. So for me, I love craft, and I think that there are a lot of really talented craftspeople here that aren't really highlighted enough. So I try, and like I'm really more of a handmade person. Like I'm not good with computers, so I'm just trying to like be good at what I'm good at, which is doing stuff with my hands. So I try and consider those things when I'm making something. I don't want people to forget the magic behind the brain to hand connection, since there's a lot of new developments in technology. I try and insert that into the things that I do, and I also try and like bring out, I love materials, so I try and bring out something special about whatever material it is that I'm working with. So those are sort of some of the parameters that I work around with, so it's not a big mess in the end.
Yeah, I guess in the area of design that I work with, because design is so huge, right? There are always, like Lilianna said, there's always parameters. There's always an objective or a goal. And it kind of starts with maybe having some sort of vision. Let's say you're designing a new product. Well, you have to figure out who it's for first, because design is so contextual. You can't design something for everyone, right? It has to be your target market or your ideal user. And then you kind of work backwards from there. You learn about their behaviors, their socioeconomic, and even their familiarity with technology. And then you kind of scale, or you go wide first. You brainstorm, you have all the ideas that you want, and then you bring it back to the constraints and see if it checks off those boxes. But obviously, the whole process is iterative, right? Like we just said, it's messy. So it could go on for forever, or sometimes it could just be like that. So you never know. But it's always evolving in that sense. And as long as you're sticking to like a functionality side of things, then that's kind of the way to go, I guess. Yeah.
I love the word that you said, iterative. Like when it comes to design, I don't think personally also nothing is super permanent. Like you just have to kind of vibe it out and see how people react to it, and then iterate along the way. How about you? Is it the same?
Well, it's also the same. It's like a big squiggle, and then it goes like a linear thing afterwards. So it's like you have all of these information that you have to kind of analyze, synthesize, and kind of compartmentalize and see what works and see what doesn't. And then again, it's you iterate. That's like the last thing. Nothing is permanent. So you have to constantly try to update it. And what you have to also take into consideration, who is going to iterate that? Is it something that this target user can iterate themselves, or you have to hire someone else to do it for you? So all of those things you have to kind of consider in starting stage. So yeah, it's also the same. It's really messy, but then it goes to a much more linear kind of process if you have like the parameters you set yourself in. Yeah.
Thank you. I love how it's a common experience. And I think another common experience is, like, speaking of iterating with your design, syempre this talk is about designing your career. I'm wondering for you, Liliana, or like for you, Shara and Aldrich also, do you have any mentors that helped you like navigate your career path also? And how do they influence your design approach?
My family. So, I mean, my family's pretty. I was born into like. I mean, we don't do math. We make things. We like art. We like design. So I would say they were my first mentors, and they're still my hardest critics. I think so. It's good and it's bad, but outside of my family, I would say a few. I don't have one. So I did work in Cebu for Kenneth Cobonpue. So he's probably like one of the first designers that I look up to, like to learn from. So he really taught me how to be meticulous with the details, including the parts that people don't see, which like you know, the stitching on the inside of a pillow, like that's still putting in, like that's part of the design. So, and that's part of like respecting the user later on. Like, you know, when they open it, it's like, ay, pangit pala. Like, you know, you want to give them a full experience, including like the undersides of things. So, and that was something that's really close to my heart also. So I was happy that he's able to teach me those kinds of details. And I also talked to Len Kabili a lot, just because of how she operates her her fashion house. And for me, like hers is still about like it goes past the design. It's also about helping other communities or helping other people. So I don't have a community like that, but then I am able to take those principles that I get from her, and it's still I'm making art, I'm making design for people. And yeah, there's a lot of reasons behind why I do those things, but talking to them kind of helps you focus more on not just like I want to make this because it's pretty, like or I think you should have it. I used to think like that before, like I think everyone should have this, but it doesn't work that way. It's more like what's my service gonna do for them? So those kinds of mentors kind of help me think about those things.
Thank you. How about you guys? Any mentors na you wanna?
Yeah, I mean, along my career, my previous managers and bosses were, offered me a lot of mentorship, and they really shaped how I now today like manage my team and work with other people. Because after looking back at each experience that I had, whether it be with my latest job, I always think about, okay, what did I like the most about what they helped me with, and what to do, what not to do, basically. And I wanted to always kind of try and make sure that people got the same kind of experience or a similar kind of guidance that really shaped me to be an effective designer. And another thing, like today, I also do have mentors and people that I talk to on a regular basis, whether it be fellow founders or people from the community. If you don't mind, I plug a few things. But like UXPH has a lot of mentors, like some in the front row right here, who also have that kind of journey, and they just want to pay it forward, right? So relying on a combination of the community events like this, and just people I meet along the way. Anybody whose experience I said, okay, that looks really, really cool. Let me just go talk to them and ask a bunch of questions. And if you form a really good relationship with them, it becomes like a mentorship exchange of sorts. I never go, will you be my mentor? Like that's kind of makes it weird. But it's just more of a natural, growth of a relationship. So yeah.
Thank you so much. How about you?
I do agree with Aldrich. Like, For me, like mentorship isn't something that's like you're fixated like one mentor who's going to like teach you for the rest of your life or something, but it's rather the community that you involve yourself in and the people that you meet. It's like an exchange going on. So for me, like the mentorship, well, it kind of started when I was like in college, like the professors that I have and like the electives that I had. Yeah, and it kind of grew there. You know, the students and like my friends within the community we started to kind of like teach each other, and then it kind of expanded from there. So I guess like I learned so much about in terms of what I want to do in design and as a creative through that, you know, because they helped me kind of shape what I wanted to have these constant conversations and exchange of like skills and like perceptions of what creativity is for them. Yeah.
I love it. So basically, you can get mentors anywhere, like wherever your community is. Like for example, for you in school, it started in school, and then your managers, and then your family, and just the people you meet along the way. Wow. It's very Wizard of Oz. I'm so, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, so Aldrich, you mentioned UX kanina. Maybe we can talk more about that. So, like the UX practice in the Philippines is slowly evolving and it's slowly growing. So what do you think are opportunities that designers can explore in that particular field?
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities that have been growing in the past 5 to 10 years alone, right? I think Philippines is in a stage right now where, you know, UX is becoming more recognized and people are realizing, okay, we need to do something about it. You may not know the term that is actually UX, but you know that something needs to be, there's a problem that needs to be solved here, whether it be in the business or process or whatnot. So especially with because I work a lot in the tech and startup scene, with the entrance and emergence of more and more startups, for example, and the government also supporting those initiatives and a lot of foreign entities coming into the Philippines to that, there's so many job opportunities that are opening up. And obviously with technology, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of AI, but like technology evolving as well in the design tech scene, there's just a lot. There's a constant need for that. And I think everybody as well, by and large, the expectations and the standards are also getting higher to provide really good services, really good products, right? So that alone, that in itself is an opportunity for designers who solve problems to kind of grab onto, basically. So yeah, at least from how I see it, there's a lot of opportunity, and there's just so much that you can have fun with and learn.
So for example, like it's like someone wants to transition or wants to explore UX design, like how hard is it to get into?
I think that's up to you to determine how hard it is, I guess. If you're somebody who likes to challenge yourself and just really learn and open up your brain and just like take in all this information and all these new things, right? It could be a really, really fun process. Obviously, it can be daunting for a few people because especially I know a lot of career shifters who have gone from something seemingly so unrelated into UX and they're like, oh my God, what do I do? It's overwhelming, absolutely, because there's so much information out there. But if you just take it a little bit at a time and again, put constraints to yourself, you know, and pace yourself, it's actually fairly easy in the sense because also online, there's so many resources that are just free. And you can learn by yourself. You have a community here, UXPH, DCP, right? Again, rely on the community, on those mentors. Everything is just free and available. So the whole learning aspect is actually quite easy in that sense. It's available. And it's really up to you to just push yourself and go that extra mile.
Yeah, well, sometimes the pushing itself is the challenge, no?
That's true.
That is the challenge.
Super valid.
So speaking of challenges, well, a transition. For you, Shara and Liliana, what are some challenges that you've encountered in your practice?
There's a lot.
Every day. No.
How much time do we have?
For me, I think when I saw this question, I was like, oh man, the first thing that popped in my head was, this is like, I don't know if it's the same for everybody, but it's really hard for me to do the business side. just because I mentioned my family doesn't do math. It's all with my titos and titas who do really good math. Didn't go to any of my parents. So I had to I had to understand, like accept it. Like it's so hard. It's even hard for me to talk about it now because it's just like that's something I would not bother doing. But because design's fun and stuff, but it's also my living and business, and you want to keep it running for as long as like I live at least. And it's business, and there are those things you don't want to think about, like numbers, Excel. Some people love it, but it's just something I had to train myself to do as a habit even. And
Then with your story is yung fact na you have to think of your design practice as like a business. Like you have to be an accountant, you have to be a strategist, you have to like research trends, whatever. I mean, it's not sexy, but like
people
it's
to
important.
help you do that. So
Yes.
it's like, okay, I'm not doing that, but you have to understand it. So that's the part that's like, hey, don't hate it.
Guide from a macro level, just understand the concept and why.
And so you know you're not,
Yeah.
being chipped or anything. Stuff like that.
Yes. How about you, Shara? Any challenges?
Well, as a young designer, I would say, if all Gen Zs out there, I think for me it's the anxiety and the being like the imposter syndrome that you have starting as a creative. I think is like a big challenge, especially when there's like so much information, and it's like design can sometimes be like a competition for people. It's like, okay, I have to do better because I don't have these resources at a young age, or I didn't have this kind of experience. And so for me, like that has been a challenge and still is. But I guess like that's where community and like your passion for learning comes in. Like really finding the right people that you can work with. Like it's not a competition, but it's like all of you are growing. Like that's how I would address it. But there's this internal monologue that you're still self-critical about what you're doing, the work that you're putting out, and like you have to do this, you have to do that. Just really connecting with the community that you have and the friends that you're with, like having support to remind you that it's much more than that you can do more, like you have a lot ahead for you.
Yeah, but somehow you find confidence in the people you talk to, maybe like how you upskill or broaden your horizons, right?
Yes, yeah.
So for you, like you dabble in different things, different design disciplines. How do you think designers can, broaden their horizons and adopt a more multidisciplinary approach in their work?
I think it kind of depends on the person, because there are people who like want to innovate in terms of like a specific medium that they're working on, and there are people who like want to integrate different mediums what they're working on. So for me, I guess like you just really have to know where to look. Ask questions. If you like an artist or you like a designer, ask how their process is, and like where do you learn stuff, and like having that naivete or like a novice kind of thinking, like you're just willing to learn anything regardless of who you're learning from. You can actually get something from that. Yeah.
Yes, everything is a learning opportunity, right? But like flipping it naman, for you, since you have a lot of experience in the industry na, like how, like for you specifically, Aldrich, how, with your experience with UXPH, how can we further cultivate the design mentorship practice in the country?
Join the Facebook group now. Let me plug that right there. We have the founder of UXPH right here with the beret. Ellie. I get that question a lot, right? From like people looking into UX or just starting out. And some people know what they want to do. Some people have no idea. Because like I said, it's overwhelming. Because there's so many facets of design, you don't know where to start. So what I always say is like, if you can, go wide. Like just try a little bit of everything out and learn from each and every experience. See what you like and see what you want to focus in. because design, all these practices within the giant umbrella of UX has so much overlap, and they're all connected. And you don't have to know all of it, right? You can specialize in a few things at first and learn all the complementary skills as you go. But yeah, like sometimes it honestly starts with something as simple as a Google search, or in this case, Facebook group search, right? And the community, again, I say the community a lot because that's really been the starting point for a lot of people that I've met and come across. They're like, holy cow, this is great, because you meet people in the same boat. You meet people in the same, in a similar stage of your career, and then that becomes your immediate community and your support system, and you start to talk to people and learn from them. And with what Shara was saying, there's like approach it with a certain naivete, right? Or just an open mind. And this is something I always say, I'm like a broken record, ask questions. Just don't be afraid to ask questions. Like, wag na mahiya, just go for it, right? Because you have nothing to lose by asking a question and everything to gain. The worst you can get if you ask somebody a question is like a little rejection, like, no, I can't help you, or no, I don't want to answer that. Okay, then move to somebody else who will, right? So yeah, just kind of making sense of that. And it kind of strengthens your resolve as well. Like, okay, I'm going to keep going. Did that answer?
Yes. And you gave me a perfect segue to tell everyone that you can, I think we have a space for a Q&A later, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask. But I have a question for everyone. So with this panel representing expertise across diverse sectors and regions, what common design principles or ideas do you believe apply universally? And what parts are particularly context-dependent? Maybe the first one first, universally applicable principle.
I'm the only one that does physical products here, right? Okay. Just one, yeah, because it's like behavioral and UX. I was like, wow. Yeah, galing. Thought about this. I'm gonna sound so proportion, I think, is one universal principle in design that I think should be practiced in terms of like visually pleasing. Like I love visually pleasing looking things, and behind that is the good proportion. So I don't know, even like maybe with a website, like, oh gosh, the text is too big. Like it's not gonna be nice to go through. So that for me is like one big thing. And then another one is honesty, like in how you do your practice, and honesty in bringing out the best of the material, for me at least, like with the products, and also like how the person's gonna use it. So I don't know, like that's what I thought of, like something that should be like a universal thing. What do you think about that?
Yes, we do. For Aldrich, Shara?
Well, I'm not sure if it's like a principle, but I guess like it is for me like a foundation. It would be like really research. Understanding, since we are in a space of like behavioral design, so really understanding who you're doing this for. Also taking into consideration like the client, like what the client insists, but you are also kind of like the voice of the user in a way as a designer. So for me, just really navigating, okay, how they think, how they communicate, how they understand things, because that will dictate how your process is going to be. Like the process is malleable, it's flexible, it can be different. It's not something that's fixed, but understanding or like the foundation of that, is what is important, and it will dictate like everything that you're going, the next steps. So yeah, I would say research.
Iterative. It's a very process-oriented phenomenon, right? You have to go through that. It's if you end up skipping parts of the process, it actually, you can kind of tell. It actually ends up showing in the work sometimes. If it's missing the research, or if it's missing the actual consideration of materials, those things are also very, very foundational. So I would say storytelling for me, especially for people applying for a job, how to present yourself. You have to tell your story, and and help people understand why they want to work with you as well, right? And why you're a good designer, why you can do the job. So.
Love it. So it's research, context, proportions, storytelling, and like really going through the process so that you can understand like what you're working on.
Maybe a little bit of math.
A little bit of math. I'm sorry.
Simple math's fine.
I'm curious. Are there any instances where, like you kind of skipped the step in your design process, and how did that turn out? No.
Okay, sure. Yes, in a way. Again, contextual. Sometimes you may be able to skip it if you already have a good instinct around what's going to happen and what's not, right? Ideally, you don't, or you can take some shortcuts. Working in a startup, you don't always have the luxury of time to go through every single step. So sometimes you're going to have to take risks or work on assumptions, whether it be a design decision or an assumption about the target market or whatnot. But again, because it's iterative, you still do have a chance to go back and refine it and then try it again, refine it, try it again. So, but most of the time when things are skipped, it doesn't completely end very well, at least from my experience.
I think when you skip a step, it becomes expensive because you have to do it again. So it's like measure twice, 3 times, 4 times, cut once. So it's really, especially if you're dealing with materials, and I do custom orders. So clients, it's not my money that it's it's the client. So I want to make sure that I don't waste it, and it really it's more tasking to double check, triple check, but at the same time, in the end, like if I don't skip any of that, then the whole piece, everybody's happy. Yeah.
Yes, and you learn also more things along the way.
To do.
Yeah, to add to that, like it's time consuming if you skip a step in a way, because you have to like go, like if they found something, oh shit, oh my god, wait, I cost, I'm so sorry.
That's what you say.
But yeah, you go back and like the client, oh, there's something wrong, so you have to go back again. So it's better to make sure to kind of pinpoint what you're already used to, because again, it's like the process of how you got there is important. So yeah, just make sure that you get to that and not really skip it, because it's going to be time consuming and it's going to like not really be good for you at the end.
Yeah, so like the lesson here is just go through it. It's painful sometimes, but it'll work out in the end. Are there any principles that are specific to your discipline?
For me, and probably Shara, technology, because it's in a constant state of flux, right? So being able to adapt on the fly again can be overwhelming, because like maybe you just read a few articles now and then next week there's like a new technology and like, oh my god, I have to do this again. But you don't necessarily have to, but you kind of just need to roll with the punches in that sense, and just that actually ends up improving how fast you can adapt in your process and your workplace, right? So embrace it. Embrace change. I think change is just always going to be there regardless of the industry.
Kind of like add to that, I 100% agree with him. Like you have to get used to like being uncomfortable with everything changing, because it also tells how resilient you are, in terms of like all the new things, all the new novelties, all the new like processes out there. So yeah, I do agree with him a lot.
Technology is hard. I cannot summarize anymore. Like technology is very challenging. But for you, Lilianna,
I use my phone to text and call people.
no, but for your practice, like it's very like tangible. Like anything
Yeah.
specific to your discipline?
Actually, it's discipline. Just the discipline to. I could not have a schedule. It's just a discipline to keep pushing and experimenting. I guess it's kind of like you guys. Like if it's with technology, mine's with like materials and how people respond to it. Sorry. Trends can personally they throw me off because then that's too fast. So and you can kind of be discouraged. I get discouraged if I try and like catch up with a trend. So there are two kinds of designers, I guess, the ones that want to go with the trends or the ones that want to like stay steady and put out I guess new ideas. I'd be on that side. So I think for me it's really just being consistent and persistent with my practice. And I guess just finding new things in old traditions. So,
Like getting to know your history, the history, your
yeah, like 'cause
references.
I'm very materials based. So there's always been ceramics, wood, metal, all of that. And for me, the tools just kind of change. You know, people used to carve out statues of marble with like,
yeah, like
you
a
know,
chisel.
chisels.
Yeah.
But now you can mix it up with CNC, CAD, whatever, hook it up, and then the robot does it for you. But then in the end, like there's a guy in the end with a tiny chisel and refines everything. So there's those sorts of tools that help the craft. So it's just like a balance of making those two work together without them eating each other up.
I love it. Parang your design practices are, like in theory, magkalayo. Like they're so different, but there's still some common like principles pa rin. Yeah. So for the next question, what are opportunities available for people who want to explore a career in design in your specific field?
Join the SITEM program. No, there's a lot. You just have to want to do it, I guess. Like in terms of like in my area, like physical products, craft, and all of that, it can get discouraging because of technology. But I mean, there's some crafts that are dying, sayang, but because it looks too hard to do. So I think it's the opportunity's always been there. It's more of the person's like will to take on whatever that has to offer, like the good things and the bad things. So I think it's always been there, and yeah, there are design center and SITEM and all of there like those are good ways to learn. That's where I learned also, and just got exposed, and yeah, just have to want to do it.
Yes. Shara, Aldrich?
Well, at least in the aspect of design where I'm in, it's hard. I haven't learned it until I was in last year of college, that there was such thing as social innovation design and social impact design and even behavioral design. I learned it going to conferences, online conferences, if Design Matters, which is like a Copenhagen and also a Tokyo conference. And it's because of that I got expanded. Like, oh, this is how you can do product design. This is how you can do visual or graphic design. And I realized that it's not as common here in the Philippines. I've only known like 2 studios that does those things, and I'm fortunate to work with the both of them. But yeah, I would say just like really having what she said about like having the willpower to really find the opportunities. If it's not available in where you are, there are more than. That's why we have the internet. You can like search in different stuff. You can search courses online about that. But yeah, I would say it's kind of hard because it's pretty new in terms of like, yeah, past couple of years.
I think similar to what I was saying, that yes, it is absolutely hard. There's the climb of like you said, pushing yourself to do that. It could get discouraging sometimes, right? And that's why I said community is a good way to to also encourage you with your friends or peers. But there are still a lot of opportunities, especially in the tech world, because now that the pandemic has also exposed the ability to like work across the globe and just be a remote worker and all of that, right? So there's still a lot of that going on, that's for sure. So there's a lot of opportunities in foreign companies as well, hiring local talent and again startups. And actually, in even more recent years, research has been huge. Like UX research, again, because I think for the longest time, a lot of companies have kind of taken that for granted. But now it's actually starting to make a really, really big spike in the sense that, oh my gosh, it's actually so important. People are so complicated or diverse, and we really have to know and understand them. That allows you to, set a business or a company apart and all that. So there's a lot of opportunities on the really, really wide spectrum of design. You just have to like search it up or ask people.
Do you have any advice for those who are kind of confused on what to pick? Or for example, they're just starting and they don't know which, like they are interested in a lot of disciplines, but they don't know which one. Do you have any advice or advice in general?
Well, I guess for me, what works is like finding a philosophy and ethos that you resonate with, and it goes beyond like what you do in your job or your career, but rather it's something that you uphold on a day-to-day basis. So for me, it's like understanding human behavior. Whether you're talking to someone, your friend, like you're already practicing it. So I think like that is what grounds.
Try things out. I mean, like I said, just go wide. But at some point, people are like, oh my God, there's now so many options. Sometimes you just need to pick one and try it out and stick with it for maybe a few months. Yeah, trial and error, iterative, right? Like even your whole career path is iterative. So sometimes if you really don't know, like, okay, just maybe set a time for yourself. Maybe 3 months, I'm going to try diving into the world of graphic design. 3 months, I'm gonna do UX research or whatnot, right? And then you'll understand. And also with what Shara said, your guiding principles help you determine what you want and what you don't want. So just have those in hand as you evaluate your choices. And it's not like you have to stick with one thing for the rest of your life either, right? You have time to change, but you just have to push yourself to do that, which can be hard. But not impossible.
I agree with both of them, Sharon and Aldrich. So I'll just add. So it's like a 3-point thing. I'd go back to the things that you're naturally good at, because for some reason, I don't. Or
And then for the next question, what do you think is the future of Philippine design?
I unfortunately missed the session this morning on that, so I would have referenced it. Darn, we didn't get notes now. I think so. I'm gonna obviously answer it from my own perspective, which is in the tech space. I think it's bright because again, the world is huge, but it's getting smaller. Technologies are all starting to work with each other, and again, opportunities come up, right? So. And as we move forward with technology and all of that, I think, I think more and more problems that we're experiencing maybe as a country are also going to be addressed partly in thanks to technology as well. So I don't know. I'm just really excited to actually see that there's a lot of effort to unite the Philippines with Design Week, and it's just so cool. So and also being able to like I guess. Highlight how much talent and heart there is here. It's something that I didn't appreciate in my former years up until recently when I saw the scale of it and just like getting to meet all these really, really amazing people. So it makes me super optimistic and excited for what's coming.
I guess it's same for me. It's quite hopeful because a lot of designers are already taking into consideration the environmental and social impact of what they're designing. So having these kinds of conversations about that and like how can we change the system that there is, instead of always putting out new products all the time, new innovations, working with what we have, like that has been like a common conversation in the design industry. So I think it's very hopeful that it is becoming to be a huge part here in developing countries, especially here in the Philippines, that is kind of like the state of design where it's headed to. So yeah, I'm pretty sure it's pretty hopeful and bright. Yeah.
Same. I'm excited for at least for what's to come with like product design, and I think people are finding Asia very refreshing now. So there's something in me that's like, why is everything so interesting here now? And I did get to meet up with a couple of designers in Singapore, and we were talking about it, and everyone just wants to get all the Asians together. So, and people are flying here to see design and new things. So it's encouraged me to keep making as well, because I think if you stop making, that's when it kind of goes down. So yeah, hopefully, I don't know, next 8 to 10 years, something. It takes time, but I think something will happen.
Yes, thank you. And I also agree. I think the future of design is super bright, especially with you guys. Like sharing your experience, sharing your time also with all of us, and sharing your stories. I think it's a very big help to those who are curious about a career in design. So again, just want to thank you officially for sharing your story and letting us know how you might want to design your career in the design industry. So for the next part, we have a Q&A. So our team has been compiling some questions from our Facebook, Zoom, and in real life audiences. So for the first question, we have one from Facebook. What is your advice to those people who want to upscale their design skills, like from graphic designer, then shift to UX designer or product design?
For me, probably short courses. That has helped me a lot to shift and to try to go to like motion graphics and then go to 3D modeling. Like just really finding there's a lot of resources out there that's free. You just have to look hard enough. And yeah, there's like a lot of talks as well. You can just finding inspiration in Instagram or like social media, and you'll see there's like a lot of like workshops for free. And yeah, just looking hard enough to see. And then once you dabble on those like introductory kind of talks or introductory kind of courses, yeah, it'll pave you like, okay, this is what I want to do. What do I want to invest my money on? Yeah, so yeah, that's my advice.
Can I add? Wait, I forgot my answer. Wait, no. So similar to like just trying things out, right? Like people, especially entering the job market or again, career shifters, you have this problem of can't get a job without experience, can't get experience without a job, right? It's a weird chicken and egg thing, but like I said earlier, sometimes you just need to like do something about it. And that could come in the form of just making projects out of thin air. Like pick a problem, go out in the street. I don't like that thing. I'm gonna try and solve it. And you make a make-believe case study or something on your own, just for your portfolio piece, just to practice everything you've learned from the courses that you take, right? I've interviewed a lot of people who have non-existing products, but the point is that you went through the process of trying it and designing something and just learning from it. And that also tells your future employers a lot of things about you that you're actually going to like think about it on a critical level. Even myself, when I first started, you know, like I wanted to freelance, I wanted to get clients, but I couldn't get clients because I didn't have anything to show. So I just made a bunch of stuff. Or I approached a lot of nonprofits and did pro bono work because I was like, hey, I support your cause. Can I make you a logo? Can I make your website? I need experience. And in exchange, you get this for free. And yeah, it's a win-win. But obviously, protect yourself with contracts. But yeah, so sometimes you just need to make something just to, again, go through the motion of practicing it.
Take that OJT seriously. Your third year OJT. I don't know. It's the same. Like just you have to try new things and also think about who you want to be taught by. And that's how I did it. So it's not. It's kind of a structured way of shooting a rifle, where it's sort of it's not like super sabog naman. You kind of have some sort of parameters, like what we were talking about earlier. Okay, I want to learn this sort of thing. So you kind of narrow it down from there, and then pick and choose.
How do you realistically pick and choose though? Like there are times na sometimes you wanna stick to it, like the resilience part of being a designer. But how do you know when it's time to move on and try another thing?
Painful. No, just kidding. I can answer that. I guess when you're fresh out of college, maybe, or yeah, just a little younger, you kind of have this idea of what you want to be. So, like me, I naturally went towards that. I wanted to mass produce furniture, like, go on a big scale. But then I kind of realized as I was doing that I don't even have the means to do so. So you just have to work with what you have also, where you can't really push for something that's not there now. It might come later. So that's how I was able to pick and choose. Like once I hit a dead end, it's like, okay, that's not it. And then kind of go back and like that, go back and see what I'm good at, what I like to do, well, more of like what I enjoy to do and I'm good at. So it kind of went that way, and that's how I ended up, integrating more of a handmade aspect. Even if like a lot of the things that I make are made by other craftsmen. I still slap something on like in the end that, or I have a hand in it. So it's also like doing a lot of introspection and seeing what's around you.
For me, I think it's a balance, right? Like, again, try things out, iterate, learn from every experience, learn what you do and you don't like. But there are things that are unavoidable, right? Like, so from what Lilianna was saying, like, choose what makes you happy, what sparks joy. But at the same time, if you're gonna make a career out of it, well, choose what makes money. And you're probably gonna have to deal with maths at some point, right? So that comes the balance. There's always gonna be a trade-off or a negative side to it, but parang you can evaluate what gives you the most happiness or what you find that your strengths or your natural affinities are, and you can try something there. But maybe after, if it's not working out after a few tries, then that might be a sign to like try something else and go with that. But again, you have time naman to try and figure it out within reason.
It's like I do agree a lot with Liliana, like work with what you have, because you're in different aspects of your life. Maybe you're not financially stable now. Okay, what are you going to work with what you have now? So I guess like, yeah, I agree so much with what they're talking about. And I think like having the mindset that your life doesn't really stop at anywhere. Like if you're 30, you want to change, it's fine. When you're 40, you still want to learn this, it's fine. It's just still having that student kind of mindset that you're always going to learn something and it's never going to stop. So yeah, that's
Thank you so much. Okay, for the next question, how do you find, create, and tell your impact story effectively?
Storytelling. No. Say it again. How do you find?
How do you find, create, and tell your impact story effectively?
Tell your impact story. I guess like that's like things I've done in the past and how I've made a difference in a way.
Yes.
Or well, I guess it's different for everybody, right? Like everyone has their own objectives. Sometimes like somebody just wants to make a ton of money and get job security and start a family. That's fine. Other people want to do things for the community and all that. So I think it kind of goes back to figuring out metrics or things that tell you, okay, this initiative or this project that I did was a success, or part of what my efforts have paid off. So you identify whatever that is for yourself, right? Like from let's say from UXPH, we looked at the metric of like, okay, how many events have we hosted? How many people came out? How many, like what the engagement is, and that helps kind of tell us if the event we hosted was actually effective. You can do something similar for your projects, your portfolio, whatnot, or your job, and say, okay, yes, actually what I'm doing is working, or people are gaining value from it. And then from there, you can kind of, probably like outline the most important parts and then use that in your storytelling and how you present your work and your portfolio and things like that. So kind of maybe you can just work backwards. And again, it's not going to be perfect the first time. So
I think also the same with Aldrich. Try to kind of storytell how your process is and be honest which of the process works and what didn't work, and how would you kind of approach it. So yeah, I guess like being really vulnerable in terms of how your usual process or how you did that certain project came about. And yeah, that's like how you tell your impact in a way. Yeah.
I need help with that. But I think you just have to be really honest. Like you can't say people are gonna see through just a little bit of if there's a bit of a tint of what do you call it? Like if you extend the story or whatever, you kind of add on to it. People are gonna sense that. So like that, you just have to be vulnerable also and see this is what I am.
like people and clients even can sense inauthenticity, right? Or if you're like putting hot air there, it may show eventually. So be careful with that too. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yes, that's so true. Like just being honest with your design, being honest with your story is an important factor talaga. We have another question here. What is the biggest risk you've taken professionally, and how do you think it has shaped your career?
I can start. So I have moved countries multiple times. So that in itself, Canada, U.S., Philippines. I mean, I grew up here, but I also was lucky enough to try out different environments abroad, right? And probably, each time I have moved or even moved to another company is a risk in itself. But, ends are also beginnings and things like that. So you can just try and make the most of your opportunity. But for me, I moved back to the Philippines about maybe like 5-6 years ago now. And there was no guarantee that after being away from home for so long, there was no guarantee for me that I would love it here again, or I would find something to do with the experience that I've created, right? And it was just like a giant wall of uncertainty. But I said, you know what? YOLO. Let's just try it out. Give myself 2 years to learn as much as I can and try that. And four more years later, I'm still here and I'm just enjoying everything that I'm seeing in the community here. So I think that just uncertainty and job security is kind of a big deal. So, yeah. That's a hard question.
Yes, that's always hard. Like with experience design, user experience design, then like if you're moving from different countries, parang how long did it take you to relearn behavior or culture? Parang I think that's also a factor with experience design, right?
Absolutely. That's a good. I mean, I got culture shock coming back, even though I was, still Filipino at heart, and I grew up here. I loved the culture, and how everything was so familiar. But that was when I was much younger, and then coming here, entering the workforce or learning to work with people, that was a big culture shock to me. And I was actually telling Shara earlier, it's like the simple fact of like people are shy to ask questions, or say just clarify because people don't want to look silly or whatnot, right? But from what I'm used to, people will just like, I have a question, and it doesn't matter who you ask as long as you ask it. And so that was something that I had to really work with a lot of my team members to get used to and say, hey, it's okay to ask questions. It's actually better if you do rather than stay silent and don't do anything about it, right? You have so much more to lose. So things like that took me a while to adjust because I would get frustrated and not understand why people were thinking on a certain way. It was one of the bigger challenges, but once you kind of embrace that problem and understand it, then you also kind of know how to like work around it a bit better. Yeah.
Thank you so much. For you, Shara and Liliana, the biggest risk you've taken in your career?
Thinking about it. I mentioned earlier, like I had this idea of what I wanted to be, even I think I wrote it in my journal too, like female designer in Asia, like those types of things. Yeah, it's not exactly that. So just getting that idea of how I want things to be for me in terms of design, and just tweaking it a little bit. That little tweak was a huge step for me because even if I realize now, like drawing is really at my core, and that's something my dean told me, but I didn't listen to him back then. I was like, "You're wrong. I should be here." So he was really right, and I decided to just Well, I don't know if he's abroad, but if you see it on Zoom, I'm sorry and thank you. So yeah, it's just accepting those little tweaks that are actually like huge. It's more of like the inside more than a physical step. I don't know if that was like, oh, I don't know who I am anymore, but it's a huge, even if it's a little tweak, it was a huge adjustment for me in how I was designing and making things. So, I think that was around 2015, 2016. It's just the idea of letting go of all those things that you wanted to do before, but there were so many things that came out of it afterwards, and there was less pressure actually, so it's a good thing.
For me, I guess I'm still undergoing that risk because I just recently moved to Manila from Laguna, and I'm in like amidst of like processing everything, and I guess like there is still like the notion of like character development in a way, since I graduated just last year, and so there's just still a lot of adjustments going on, and like figuring out how to merge design and art in a way that is meaningful for me and in a way that I want it to kind of show to people in a way. So I'm still undergoing that risk. It's not that obvious, but I think that
How are you navigating it now?
I'm just gonna laugh because it's still hard to navigate it. Like for me, like I guess I'm super grateful for the people that I've met Yeah, because they've helped me kind of adjust myself through it, and kind of like, oh, they have been like the mentors I've had for the past 2 years, for the past year. And yeah, I would say just really kind of constantly reminding yourself where you're coming from, where you want to go, and like making that as an anchor for you to kind of like push forward and move forward. And you have something to fall back on, like the people that you trust and like the ethos that you have. Yeah, so
that keeps on coming back, like your ethos, your principles. That's really your guiding, your
exactly.
compass. For the next question, as the design community grows bigger and broader, how can an aspiring designer carve a niche for themselves in the industry? How do you know what your community needs and how do you respond to it?
I would work for someone first. Really, like, I mean, the designers that I admire, only if there's a handful of people who just went off and like, started their own practice. But a lot of them worked for somebody who knew more than them for at least 10 years. So I know it's hard, like people like transferring 1 year, 2 years, but you don't get a good sense of that. So there's some things that they used to do back in the olden days where you stay in a job for a longer time just to get a sense of what's going on. Yeah. At least you don't have to like, go around semi-blind. You have people in, design office to tell you what's going on. So, and you end up learning so much.
What Lilianna said, work for someone first, right? Like if you're just starting out, or collect all the experience as you go. Again, learn from others, because the question was about like within the design community, and it's research. It's research. Like you research what the design community needs or who's in it, right, and who can help, and then you kind of like you have all these data points or these things that maybe you have a good feeling about or you're excited about, and again, it comes down to just trying it out and seeing if there's anything there that sticks, or maybe you have a light bulb moment. Oh, actually, I really like this. I'm gonna see what else there is. I think that you just gotta start with asking questions or meeting people and researching. Yeah, it sounds very simple. It can get, it can get very time consuming, but at the same time, it's something that you have to constantly do anyways, so may as well get used to that part of the process.
yeah, like exactly, like asking how they got to where they are now, like the people that you look up to. And yeah, again, like as Lilianna said, like experience is really important in a way, because that's where you figure out like what works for you and what doesn't. And yeah, just understanding like the process of it. And I would say like knowing your creative aims also helps, short term and long term. Like, okay, where do I see myself in like 5 years or 10 years? Okay, how do I get there? Who will I ask? Who can I approach to? And who can I kind of collaborate with? So there's like a lot of things, like breaking down the steps to get where you want to go. So.
Yeah, like creating some sort of roadmap for you, because like a career in design, correct me if I'm wrong, but I see it as medyo flat. It's not really hierarchical in that sense, especially if you're working as a professional, like for yourself.
Ideally.
Yeah, ideally. For yourself.
Not always the case, but yes.
Yeah, so if you're working for yourself, parang it's hard to figure out what's next. So maybe the roadmap nga for yourself can be helpful.
It's a bit of like a combination of, the roadmap is like planning, right? And there's a lot of people who want to plan, okay, in 5 years, I'm going to do this. It's so structured. But the caveat there is if you roadmap everything out and structure everything out, you leave no room for experimentation or change, right? So my advice is usually like have major milestones maybe to anchor on, and then you kind of wiggle your way around that and you learn as you go, right? But Too much structure, not good. Too little structure, also not good. So balance.
Yeah, just in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay, for the next question, how do you think developing a career in your field has changed since you started? What do you think will change in the future? Anyone? Then and
Like-
now?
Because I feel like I'm on the fringe. I feel like I'm on the fringe of two different ways of thinking. Because like in the, I'm just in. Yeah, I feel like I'm in the middle of, like I saw the iMac evolve, so it's like it's kind of like that. Like I had cassette tapes. I grew up with cassette tapes. But then now it's like there's Spotify. So I feel like I have those two minds. And the question is how was it? I forgot the question.
Question: how do you think developing a career has changed since you started?
Yeah, it seems more friendly and organic now compared to like when I had to like start thinking about those things. So it's more forgiving, I think, where there isn't that much. There's still some sort of pressure, but it's not like, oh, well, whatever you pick in college, that's what you do for the rest of your life. You know, it's not like that anymore. So it's more forgiving for me, I think, especially as people in the creative side. It's so hard to like stick to one thing and be like, this is what I want to do forever, unless that's really what you want to do forever. Everything like gets mixed up and it changes and it keeps improving. So there's always like some sort of thing going on, which is why I said it's nice that it's more forgiving, like in setting out your career path. Yeah.
For me, back in my day, when I was growing as a designer, I definitely did not have as many resources as I had now, right? Like everyone starting out now, such a wealth of resource. Again, just a Google search away, literally at your fingertips. I had to go seek it out, and I had to make sure that, or tell myself to be really, really hungry to learn and seek out every opportunity. Again, be really walang hiya and ask questions, or can I do this for you? Can I do this? Or can I have this, right? I had to really just grab at every opportunity that I could. But I was also learning where for example, UX was still in a fairly early stage and technology was evolving. So there were resources, but it's just not as crazy abundant as it is now, right? So I think people now have almost just so much to choose from, and that becomes overwhelming in itself as well, which is another problem. But that's why I said sometimes you just got to pick something and run with it. And like Liliana said, it's a lot more forgiving. We now have we have platforms. Like one of the platforms that I use myself, and I also give back to, is called adplist.org, and that's a free mentorship platform where literally people volunteer, a few hours a week, and just you can book time with them, and then just they become mentors, or you just ask questions, and it helps support you. But I wish I had that when I was starting out, because nobody would answer those questions for me, right? So it's different now. Oh, and sorry to add to my really long answer. Competition is a thing, right? Like with any industry, there's always competition. So it's kind of weird because there's such an abundance of designers, there's such abundance of opportunities, but everyone wants the same one, and you're learning together, but you're also competing with each other. It's kind of weird in that sense. But so it's all about like being able to storytell, position yourself, and get better in your craft there. During my time, it was hard because nobody knew what we were doing. What even is UX? So you had to educate the potential employer as well. So anyways.
I can't really answer in the then part, but the now. Well, in the aspect of my design, it's still fairly new, so I can't really say much about that. But yeah, I can't really answer the question, to be honest.
It's okay. In the next one, in the next panel. I think we have a question from the audience.
Hello, 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 hello.
Don't be shy.
Okay, so this question is for...
It's a mic?
Yes.
What?
Yes. So this question is for
Camera on that thing? No, I'm kidding.
Aldrich.
Hi.
So this question is for you. So most of us here as designers likes to work alone until we get promoted into leading a team or working with a team. So it's more of balancing the operations, managing your team, delegating. So during your first, days or months or years as a team leader, how did you manage yourself with all of those things? Kasi parang tayo mahilig tayo mas na parang gawin natin yung gusto natin gawin in design.
Yeah.
But if we get that position, it's more of delegating and more of managing the team. So how did you...
So can I, to clarify, how you're asking me how did I navigate the situation of becoming maybe like a sole designer or an individual contributor to a manager? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So it's different for everybody because being an IC or individual contributor versus being a manager is a very different ballgame.
I would look for that in somebody who wants to be in the design world.
Yeah, I actually agree because like being a creative it's a very rigorous process that you have to undergo through. So you kind of notice a person if they're willing to go down that road, like the resiliency that they have, and also the having like a student kind of mindset, like always trying to learn, even if they're older, like, oh, I still want to learn this. This is something that I can apply and stuff like that. And yeah, just having that respect of learning something, I think is like an important part.
Also, because you have to know that some of the stuff you're going to do now, you're probably not going to see the results of it maybe ever. I don't know. You don't know what part of history you're put in. So if you know that's what you really want to do, then you'll do it and just think, oh, I'm contributing to like this little part of like history's timeline. You don't know who's going to pick up off of that. So you're actually also designing for people you're never going to meet ever. So
for me, I look for a few things when I'm, let's say, interviewing people or, kind of scoping them out, right? Or even referring people to fellow companies. I look for a few things, and Lilianna said one of them is teachability. How willing is the person to be wrong and learn, or be told and be given feedback or critique that, hey, you can do this better. And from that, how willing and how fast are they able to take that feedback and do something about it and change and iterate on themselves. I think that goes close to self-awareness, being able to be real and call it as it is and be like, okay, this is where I'm at in my skill set or in my career. I know I want to do this, or this is where I messed up. Here's how I'm going to do better. So for that, and because I work in the startup field, grit, because it can be a very chaotic environment, and so you're going to fail a lot, you're going to make a lot of mistakes, you're going to forget a lot of things, and that's okay. But being able to, like, what was that thing that Alfred told Batman or Bruce Wayne? Why do we fall? So we can pick ourselves up again, something like that. Basically that. You just have to like keep going at it, and it's okay. I think those are some of the biggest ones, and of course people who are not afraid to just be themselves. I think that's what we look for in culture fit as well. It's like, who are you as a person, and why do you do what you do? What is your purpose? And if you're still finding it, that's fine. But as long as you're able to like just say, hey, this is who I am, and bring yourself to the table, that's something that should be celebrated as well. And that's not something you should shy away from as well. Being yourself at the workplace. But again, that answer and my previous answer with the management, wherever he went, it was also very idealistic, right? So it's not going to be the same for every environment, but you can definitely do what you can to make the most of that.
Thank you so much for that question. I think we have time for one last.
Yeah. Hi. So I think my question is connected to the previous question, but from another angle. So I work with Shara in place. Something that one of the problems that many times we're facing since we open, when we are actually trying to find this design community and offering offers. So in part of this designing your career is finding the opportunities. So when we open the opportunities, it's difficult to find actually the talent and the design community. At least we have been facing this, and maybe we are not doing it right. So my question is, from this perspective, what is your recommendation for some organizations working in the design field that actually are facing problems to actually find the people and the talent to give them the opportunity?
So you're looking for talent to work with your team or with your clients, is that right?
Yeah, with the team, yeah.
With your team.
So, yeah.
I mean, ta-da. No. Here's one. The UXPH, again, is a big community. We have job boards on just the Facebook groups. You can post there. We're picking up our operations again to have more and more community events. So just coming out and making, networking. There's probably a bunch of people here seeking. And I think a lot of it is also partially marketing yourselves. I don't know what you guys are doing there, so I'll disclaim with that. But you could help with the community events. Let's say we could partner up with UXPH and say, hey, we're actually hiring, and this is the event that we do together, right? So I've seen a lot of companies benefit from that. They've hired straight from the community or just referrals. So we can talk after. That's one of the best ones, I would say. It's mostly online and on Facebook at the moment, and soon face to face.
You should do a little throw a competition, an open call, and do some sort of design competition or something. Those are fun. That's the only thing I could. I'm more old school, so I'll talk to people, but I don't know, a way to get find a big amount of talent. Yeah, that's a fun way of doing it, I guess, instead of interviewing or. I mean, Facebook's okay and stuff, but that would be nice too, I guess, because it gets people pumped up, and there's something at stake.
Hello? There we go. It's going to take some time as well, and I speak from experience, to find the right folks, right? Just because I think also in the academic side, there's not that much. If you're looking for designers specifically, there's not much design or UX in the academe right now. So a lot of UXers will probably just kind of learn it and just try it out on their own, not from school, but on their own initiative. So, but you can work with, there's a lot of student organizations as well, if you're willing to look for a lot of juniors or interns that way. And I think part of it is also training them in the right mindset. So it's an investment on the company side for sure. And again, I speak from experience from that, but we have found some amazing people along the way. So they're all out there for sure. It works.
Shara, should I ask you?
Actually, same. I do believe marketing the company, our company, is really important, and also just going to events and being out there in the community, because there's a lot, and it's nice because the design community and the creative community is so open and so welcoming. So I think we can work with that.
Thank you so much for that question. And I think that's all the time we have for today. So thank you again, Lilianna, Aldrich, and Shara. Let's give them another round of applause.
Thanks for having us.
Yay.
It's fun.
So once again, on behalf of the Design Week team, I would like to thank our partners, the Department of Trade and Industry, our festival co-curator, our program partners, our partner events, our media partner, our design mentors, our design live partners, our creative venue partner, our food partner, and our government partner. And to learn more about the events we have going on and to get updates on all things Design Week Philippines, head over to the Design Center social media accounts. That's DTI-Design Center of the Philippines and Design Week Philippines on Facebook and at DTI.DesignCenterPH on Instagram. And don't forget to tag us on your posts and stories with the hashtag #DesignWeekPH 2023 and #OnTheEdge. Again, this has been Maine Manalansan and Lilianna, Aldrich, and Shara. And this is Designing Your Career. See you all at our next event.
Thank you.